Hello and welcome. I'm Jay, and this is Rumble VR. I have about 45 hours into this game at the moment, and I absolutely love it. In a few of my matches, I have noticed some people struggling with the moves/attacks in this game. So I thought I would make a video on what I believe to be the absolute basics of Rumble. Maybe you just bought the game and are looking for how to start, how to begin. Or maybe you've been playing for a few hours and you're looking for help with technique. Or maybe you're trying to decide whether you want to buy this game at all. Whatever your reason, we're going to go over the absolute basics of what you need to know when you first log in to Rumble. First, what is Rumble VR? Well, it's a VR PvP game. It involves moving your arms and hands to go into different stances. These stances correspond to attacks you can use to harm your opponent. This is first and foremost a PvP game. There are other things to do besides combat, but one-on-one PvP is the primary game mode. There is, as of yet, no main story or PvE modes. Whether or not the devs are going to add them later on, I don't know, but at the time of this recording, not in the game. Number 2. This is where you will spawn in each time you load into Rumble, this little circle here. If it's your first time in Rumble, you should ignore almost all of this. The only thing that's important is that one over there. That's the multiplayer terminal, that's how you're going to get into a match. But if it's your first time, you can't use it yet. The other thing of import in here is the tutorial tablet. You should see it floating somewhere over there in front of that terminal. I think it's in front of that board over there. It has a list of requirements that you need to meet before you're allowed to play in a match or use the park. Instead of worrying about this area, what we should do is we should go down that hall to combat study. This is the training area. The first thing you should know when you walk in here is that board directly to your left. That is the settings board. You should review it all. Move your hand through the little question mark to read what it does. Get everything the way you want it before you move into the main game. It's really important. It took me a little while to get through it. Make sure you get your settings right. The second thing you should do when you arrive in this area is read through that tablet right there, clicking the next button to go through it, and read through all of those pedestals. Walk up, put your hand through the question mark. It'll display information. It goes over how the game works. It tells you what modifiers are and essentially how the game functions. It's all pretty important. I would recommend you read all of it. There are also 2 training boards in this area. When you first log into Rumble, you are a white belt. I will link an image in the description about what all the belts are and what all the ranks are. At white belt, or Pebble, the first rank, you have access to 4 moves. 2 spawning abilities, 1 technique, and 1 movement ability. The first training board is at the end of the pedestal over here. It will teach you how to sprint. Sprint is your movement ability. This is a good board to start with because it only teaches you the 1 move, and it kind of shows you how the game is trying to teach you. So you move into this area, and it moves its hands, and it shows you where to place them. And as you can see, when you get your hands in the right spot, it shows you where to put them next. Sprint is basically just pumping your arms like you're running. Now, it's a little difficult to get right, but once you get it, it's not too hard. The other board, the main one, is right there. It holds all the other moves except for sprint. At white belt, you have access to 3 of these moves. You have spawn disc, spawn pillar, go where I want you to, thank you, and straight. Put it on pillar. The circle over here will work the same way the sprint board does. It will show you where to place your hands, and then it'll show you where to move them to. The problem is it doesn't always work the best. Sometimes it doesn't show up the second position, sometimes it does. It is now, but I've noticed that sometimes, yeah, see, it doesn't show it there. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm here to show you the basics, so we're going to jump to my preferred training area, and I will show you how to do all of these moves, but not that one. See you in a bit. And now that we have a nice view, we can begin. Please note that all of these moves I'm about to show you, and pretty much all of the moves you learn on that board, only work if there is dirt underneath you. If you're on the wood over there or on one of those staircases, the only move you can do on those is sprint. You can't do any of the other moves. Another note is when you first log in, before you get into the lobby, you have to do a T-pose and hold down the top 2 buttons on each controller. Hear that sound? That's to calibrate your height. You can do it at any time, and you should. It helps. If you feel as if your moves are not coming out properly, try recalibrating your height, and that might help you. So as I said, you have access to 3 moves when you first start Rumble. They are spawn disc, spawn pillar, and straight. The primary thing to know about all spawn moves is the starting hand position. You have to start with your hands here. Hands slightly in front of you, palms up, elbows at roughly 90 degrees. All spawn moves start in this position. I had a lot of trouble chaining moves together because I wasn't getting my hands back here. So learn from my mistake and make sure you get your hands in this position whenever you want to spawn an object in. A good tip that I learned fairly early on is that if you practice with your hands open, that is not holding the grip buttons, when you get your hands into the proper position, they will make fists all on their own. And then if you move them out of position, they'll open up. You can use this to your advantage to get them into a proper position and then adjust where your hands are as needed. So you can go very slow and get them to where you want them and to where the position works. You'll find that where you need to place your hands is rather lenient. You'll see how much room you have there. It also doesn't matter how you get here. You can throw your hands from above you, you can bring it down from underneath. It doesn't matter. As long as you start in the ready position and get to the proper position, the technique should work. So test out what works best for you, and then do that. Now, let's hurl some rocks. So, spawning a disc. This is one of the most common moves you will see in any match at any level. It is very simple. You start in your ready position. You bring one hand up so that your thumb is pointing straight upwards, and so that your fingertips or your knuckles when the fist closes are pointing away from you. Your other hand rotates around so that the back of your hand is facing away from you, and so that your thumb is pointing straight upwards. Note, I didn't say left or right. You can do this with either hand. So you can use whatever hand you want. I'm right-handed, so I put my right hand forward and my left hand down. Remember to return to your starting position every time you want to spawn something, not just a disc. You have to return to this position every time. If you want to spawn multiple, you have to come back. Remember, don't practice with your hands closed. They will close themselves when you get them in the proper position. Try to spawn a disc. Did it work? No. Look at your hands. Did they close? Are they still open? If they're still open, rotate your hands until they close. Then try again. Correct yourself using that. Remember to return to your proper ready position each time. And remember to get into the proper end position each time. You also don't need to throw your hands forward. You're not punching the air. You can move slowly and smoothly. Make sure you return to your ready position. Make sure you get to the end position. You do not need to go fast. Speed comes with time. So move slowly, move deliberately, and make sure you're getting things right. The next move you have access to is Spawn Pillar. You enter your ready position. One hand, for me, my right, comes straight up, knuckles pointing in the air, thumb pointing straight back over your shoulder. Your other hand, or your offhand, for me, my left, simply rotates 90 degrees so that your thumb is pointing upwards. It looks like this. A common mistake that I see people make is they will take their offhand and they'll throw it way down. You don't need to do this. It'll sometimes still work, but you just need to leave your hand here and turn it 90 degrees. You run the risk of the pillar not spawning when you throw your hand way down. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So here is the proper technique a couple more times. The last move that a white belt has access to is called straight. It looks like this. This is not a punch. Don't make the mistake of trying to use this on your opponent to do damage. It won't work. You will not damage your opponent by punching them. Do not try to get into a boxing match. It won't work. To do a straight, your main hand should come straight forward, palm down. Your offhand should come up around eye level with your knuckles pointing upward and your thumb pointing back over your shoulder. It looks like this. Straight pushes objects away from you, and it pushes all stone objects, even objects your opponent spawns in. So if your opponent spawns a pillar in and hits it at you, you can hit it right back. And that is all the singular moves new players have access to. You unlock more as you rank up, but worry about mastering these first. Now, go practice. Go slow. Use the automatic fist closer. Make sure you always return to your ready position. I would recommend you try for at least 3 discs in a row. Try for at least 2 pillars in a row, one after the other. Work on using your straights on the pillars so that you can hit them 100% of the time. Keep in mind that hand positioning is somewhat flexible. Find a position that is comfortable and works for you. You may notice that this video isn't over yet. There's a little bit left. I wanted to touch on one last thing that the tutorial area doesn't cover and that I haven't seen in any other video on this game, and that is head positioning. It is mentioned over there that you should keep your eyes and your gaze up and locked on your opponent, which you should. You should look at your opponent overlooking at your hands, overlooking at what your opponent is throwing at you, over almost anything else. And the reason for that is very clear. If you look too far away, you won't be able to do your moves. Let me demonstrate. So my hands are open, I put them into the disc position, they close. See, they're closed. This will spawn a disc. See, it will spawn a disc. But if I look too far to the right, you'll see my hands open. See? If I try to spawn a disc while looking over here, it won't go. Right? I have to keep my eyes where my body is facing in order to get the move to go out. So you should just always keep your gaze locked on your opponent, right? Well, it's a little more complicated than that. You see, objects spawn where you are looking. They don't spawn where your body is facing. They don't spawn where your hands are going. They spawn where you are looking. So as you can see, if I put my hands in the proper position, I have a certain degree of freedom that I can turn my head left and right. I don't think you'll be able to see it if I look too far left. That will leave my hands closed. Right? So if I look as far to the right as I can, without them opening, and do a spawn disc, the disc will fly off slightly to my right. If I do the same thing looking slightly to the left, you'll see my disc flies off slightly to the left. This actually happens with every move in the game, but it's most noticeable with discs since they have a forward trajectory. This means that you can make minor adjustments simply by looking without turning your body in real life or using the thumbstick to turn your avatar. You can just look and lead your opponent and throw a disc by turning your head slightly. It is, however, much like everything in this game, more complicated than just that. Since objects spawn where you are looking, if you turn your head as you spawn an object in this case a disc, you can put the object way farther to one side than the game ever intended you to. So, for instance, here's a normal disc. Here's one as far right as I can look without my hands opening. Now here's one where I spawn it and look. You can do this at either side. It's all about timing. You can throw discs almost 180 degrees if you get the timing right. How often is this useful? Seldom. But it does help you understand the game. It helps you understand that you have to keep your eye not only on your opponent, but also in front of them. Projectiles have to be led in order for them to land. That's actually really important. On top of that, if you're running away, you might be able to land a sneaky disc off on somebody while you're trying to rotate around. And that's about it. And that's the absolute basics. You should be able to beat the tutorial now if you haven't already, and you should be able to progress on to your first match. I will link 3 things in the description of this video. The first one is an image showing all of the rankings and their names. By the way, you can see all the belts right there. It shows what moves you learn at those rankings, and it also shows a simplified version of the information you gain over there in the training area. The disc I threw off to my far left, not included. The second thing will be the official Discord for Buckethead Entertainment, the makers of this fine game. The image I'm going to post can also be found there along with more players and the devs of the game. I'm on it, although I don't chat very much there. The last thing I'm going to link is my Reddit account. If you have any questions for me, or if you want to leave a comment, or if you just want to let me know I forgot something, you can leave a comment under this video, or you can send me a message directly on Reddit. Thank you very much for watching. That's my name in-game right there. If you see me, give me a wave. There's voice chat in the game now, so just say hi. I genuinely hope this information was helpful to you. Good luck, and happy earthbending. Bye.